PlayStation 5. This is an exciting week, isn't it? Because PlayStation 5 is about to show us more footage from their launch lineup of games. But what is so surprising to me is that even though PlayStation has had so much dominance over the PS4 generation, in my opinion, and especially in Japan. I mean, obviously, Xbox doesn't have much of a presence in Japan. What I find interesting is how Xbox is still in there. They're just like, we are not going down without a fight. As I understand, I don't think we have a price for the PS5 yet, but we do have estimates. So according to TechRadar.com, they're predicting something like $500 for the PS5. I think that sounds reasonable for a console that has as much power as PS5 will have, for being able to play, I think, what would they say? It says like, they think it's going to have 4K output at 120 FPS with HDR technology, 8K output. It sounds like it's, a ray tracing, all the things that PS5 is promising. I think, personally, that $500 is quite a reasonable price. The main question is, how much is PS5, the digital edition? How much is this going to cost? I think the real battle here isn't between PS5 and the Xbox Series X, which is the new Xbox that will be coming out. I think the real battle here is the PS5 digital edition versus this, the Xbox Series S. Now, this was just announced last week, and I think it was actually a leak. I don't think Microsoft wanted, I don't know what happened, but I heard that they weren't actually planning on releasing it just yet. But whatever it is, we now have information about the Series X, and it's official, and it's going to be this is the official Xbox.com website. They're predicting that it will be launching at $300. So that's the price they would like to sell it at. $300, or check this out. This is the cool system that we might see Apple join in with, which is a subscription model for something like $30 to $40, $50 for a monthly charge that will give you presumably a new console and a free upgrade to consoles when they upgrade as well, or if new versions come out which are even faster with better outputs or whatever. I have no idea. I've literally just seen this, but subscription models, when Netflix started becoming a thing, we were all like, okay, $5 a month, $10 a month, I'll spend that for all the pop music in the world, all the classical music in the world, all of the best TV programs in the world, or even video games. Xbox has what they call the Game Pass, and that's going to be their playing card against the PlayStation. Now, PlayStation also has a system. They've used something like PlayStation Now or PlayStation Plus, and there are benefits to being a member, but as yet, I don't think it's quite as competitive as what's available on Game Pass, because I feel like Game Pass, it pretty much includes almost like every game on the Xbox game store. Listen, I haven't really looked into it, but I know that Game Pass is a very competitive thing, and you can get it pretty cheap. I think on PC, it's like $5 a month, and you get a month's access to a whole ton of games. And maybe you're just spending $300 for Christmas, and you want to spend 2 months with Game Pass, and then maybe you'll be done with games after that. You'll be like, yeah, you know what? I don't actually have time for this. Or, maybe I'll pass the console on to someone else. At least I didn't spend $60 on one game and then, or, $300 buying a bundle of 4 games. Like, that's a ton of money. That's going $300 for a console, $300 for a small collection of games. With the Game Pass, I think Xbox Series S offers a really, really compelling new buyer option to get into next generation of graphics. So it will have most of the features of Xbox Series X, but not being able to play at the top settings. So for example, PlayStation 5, either one, you buy PS5 or the digital edition, and you get all this cool stuff like 4K, ray tracing, 120 FPS, HDR technology, 8K output. I'm pretty sure that either PS5 will be able to do this. That's not what I understand you get with the Xbox Series S. I believe the idea is it has access to all of the same games as the Xbox Series X, but it will run them at slightly lower frame rates or slightly less like lower resolutions, or it won't be at 4K. It won't be up-resed. It'll be all played at on HD. And a lot of the people who want this console, or the people who go for this console, will be the sort of, what do they call it? The late majority? Because there's obviously the early adopters who have 4K TVs or HDR monitors or all these 120 hertz monitors or 300 hertz monitors. These are the early adopters, people who are buying stuff that most of us will not have. But that's not how you get all of the money. It's important to make these people happy, give them an option, which is the Xbox Series X. This option here, the Xbox Series X, this is for the early adopters. They want to see that Xbox is competing with PS5 and giving us all the cool stuff of next gen. But that's not how you make money. That's just how you please the early adopters and hope that the late majority also jumps on board. Because if you don't have the late majority, then you don't actually make a ton of money. By having these two options, the one that pleases the early adopters, having the Series S be less powerful, but still have access to all the same games, means that they'll probably be able to please both the early adopters and the late majority. PS5, I don't want to say concerned, but I don't think it's going to compete in quite the same way, because I think they're both going to be expensive. If what this website here seems to be correct, maybe if they're saying that PS5 is $500, then I think the PS5 digital edition, I think it can only afford to be $50 cheaper. So I'm guessing $500 and $450. And I think that at those two price points, it locks out that massive group of people that were happy to spend $300 on a Nintendo Switch. $300, now you've got a console that keeps a large number of your kids happy. Like if you've got 2 kids, both of them can play on the same Switch. If you buy a couple extra controllers, you got 4 people who can play on that Switch, but at the same time, you can take it away from the TV so they can use it and still play games while you watch your Netflix movies. You're like, kids, get off the TV. It's time for me to watch Netflix now. The Switch was a really great, fairly low-cost option that fit into people's lives. Kids, get off the TV. I want to watch Netflix now. That's awesome. Plus, the console itself, not that expensive, like $300. Plus the fact that it's got a bunch of cheap games on it as well. And a lot of the cheap games on Switch come from the Steam, like, indies development area. And, you know, you can get, like, Overcooked is, like, one of the best games I've ever seen for families. And it's, like, I don't know, $10 at most, or Overcooked 2, I think it was, like, $15. Sometimes they had a bundle which included both. PS5 is aiming to be right there at the bleeding edge. Not obviously as fast as the fastest PC, if you're into PC gaming, but right up there at the bleeding edge for the console gamer. And in addition, something that's a little bit different with the PS5 is that in addition to exclusive titles, because PlayStation has always been great at getting developers to create games exclusively for Sony, the other thing about PS5 is that it has an SSD in it, which, as far as I can tell, is unlikely to be available in most PCs. Like, they've worked really hard on integrating this special SSD into the PS5 so that it can stream game environments into the game without large loading times. So that will actually completely change the way that video games are designed, like levels are designed. Because I can't remember, I don't know if this is actually how it works, but I'm pretty sure in Ratchet and Clank, I think the idea in Ratchet and Clank is that you can zoom from one zone to another with a completely different environment. And the reason you can do it seamlessly and quickly is because it can stream that new environment into the game console memory without loading times. So PS5 offers a world of games that probably won't be on PC for quite some time. Of course, PC will eventually catch up. Those SSDs will hopefully become standard on PC as well, and then PC will become the place to enjoy everything, as it always ends up being. But for now, PS5 will be an exclusive place where a lot of these things start. What slightly concerns me is that neither of these PS5 options, and you know, Sony could unveil a third option, like a more budget-friendly PS5 Series S option if they wanted. It would be a little bit too copycat, I think, or maybe they could release it next year or something. Neither of these options seems to fit into the category of people who need the console to fit into their budget, fit into their lifestyle. This is like a bleeding edge console, and you make space for it in your life. You need to pay some extra money so that you can get this console, which is more powerful. And I think if you already own a Switch, you're like, okay, well, Switch is my thing. I play a lot of Switch games. I kind of want the Xbox, so I got some of those next-gen games. In that case, you might have a Switch and a Series S under your TV. Or if you're a slightly harder core gamer, you might have a PS5, which would be $500. But instead of having a PS5 and an Xbox Series X, you might have a PS5 and a Series S. So that's $500 plus $300. That sounds significantly nicer than $500 for a PS5 and $500 for a Series X, and now you spent $1,000. Now, granted, you still have to spend $800, so it is still a significant amount of money, but it sounds a little more tantalizing than spending $500 on each of the next-gen consoles. Basically, I just find this move by Xbox really fascinating because it's like they want to be up there in the fight. They're like, guess what, PS5, we've got this awesome machine, which is also going to be really powerful, but unlikely to have as many exclusives as Sony, which is Sony's real playing card. Is like, they've got a ton of exclusive games that you really just aren't allowed to play anywhere else because they're only on PlayStation. Series X is not quite the same because if I'm not mistaken, with the Xbox One, weren't pretty much all Xbox One games also available on PC? With the Xbox One, I couldn't see any reason to buy it because it's like, I've got a PC and I can access the Xbox Game Store on my PC, so why do I need this extra console? I don't. Unless I was plugging it into my TV and wanted the convenience of playing on a large living room TV. So I feel like Xbox has got their eye more on the future. They're thinking, okay, well, we want to have a console out there because we want people to get on the Xbox Game Pass. Either way you look at it, Xbox Game Pass will make them more profit than winning a console war. Like, let's say, for example, PlayStation 5 is a little bit too expensive and people don't want these exclusive titles. The truth is, everybody wants these exclusive. Look at this! Oh my god, I really want to play Spider-Man. But let's say, for whatever reason, Sony doesn't hit it out of the ballpark with PS5 and Xbox wins the console war and they're like, yeah, Xbox Series X was the better console, which I just don't see happening. But let's just say that does happen. What does Microsoft have to gain from that, really? Okay, great. Now everybody has a Series X, but it's actually kind of expensive to make. Like, the parts that are going into a Series X, they're gonna be expensive. And Microsoft is going to have to build them and make some small amount of profit on each console. But instead of making a $500 box that makes, I don't know, $30 profit because the parts in it are too expensive and it costs a lot of money to make. By comparison, they could just sell their Game Pass, which has a bunch of games like this one or Halo, the next gameplay. Here we go. So you can see it says here, Xbox Game Pass. Access to over 100 high quality games for something like, I don't remember if it's like $5 per month for PC or maybe $8 per month for Xbox, whatever. That's all profit. Of course, they need to spend the money making the game, but there will be people who buy the game outright anyway, just because they don't like the idea of a subscription service. They're just like, I just want to own the game forever and not pay monthly for it. That's great. But the Game Pass is just pure profit. $5 a month. Keep that person for 2 months because they'll forget to cancel. That's $10 profit. Pure profit. Keep that person for a year. That's $60. And they've had access to 100 games as opposed to buying one game. Like, that person spent $60. Instead of buying one game, they got a year's access to 100 games. I'm not trying to say that subscription services are better for games, just saying that if you're not sure if you really want to go all in and spend loads of money on a console, it's so much more cost effective to get a subscription service. So if the strategy is just get people on Game Pass, then this is like the perfect lineup. I just think this is going to be so good. Xbox Series X for people who don't have a very powerful PC, get Game Pass. People who don't want to spend a lot of money on an next-gen console, but they don't want to be left out completely, Xbox Series S with Game Pass. People who don't want to buy this console at all and just play on their PC get Game Pass. So either way, Microsoft makes free money on a subscription service. That's genius. Not that it's going to make more money than PS5, but it just makes a lot of sense that they're aware PS5 is going to be kind of awesome, and trying to compete with it directly isn't as smart as going, hey, why don't we just offer a bunch of options, but if you don't buy them, who cares? Just buy the Game Pass anyway. Long story short, I would like to buy an Xbox just to be involved in Xbox. The truth is, I have a PC that can handle a lot of games. I don't think my PC is good enough to handle all of this ray tracing new stuff. I've got like a GTX 1060 in my gaming laptop, so there's a lot of games that I actually can't play. But I think I kind of just want to be part of this just to see how it goes. How successful will Game Pass be? Because you'll get access to a number of cool games, and for not a big investment. $300. If this includes the controller, I think that's a pretty darn good deal. What I'm not so sure about right now is this, the $25 per month option. Now, I believe that depending on which one you choose, you can get either an Xbox Series S or an Xbox Series X. I guess it could be more expensive for that option, or maybe you have to pay for a longer amount of time. It sounds kind of interesting, but I'm not sure how I feel about that just yet, because again, if Apple does something like that where you're like guaranteed access to all the new iPhones, and you also get access to their Apple TV programs that are exclusive or apps that are exclusive, I don't know, it's very quickly becoming like, okay, I have like 6 subscriptions, they're all $5 a month. That's kind of expensive. Now I have 3 subscriptions, but they're all $25 a month. Okay, it's getting really expensive. It's like, you got to be careful before you sign a contract where you're spending some amount of money per month and you can't cancel it. Or if you do cancel it, you have to return the console and it has to be not broken. Got to be careful with your money these days. Really, I'm excited about PS5 for the games. I think a large number of cool experiences that I haven't been able to take advantage of. For example, games that use ray tracing, games that are played upscaled or in native 4K, games that have all this new design ethic because of the SSD, which is super fast, in PS5, or just exclusive titles that are coming out on Sony platforms because they're just really good at nailing down exclusive titles from certain developers. I think that's where PlayStation is going to be super exciting. I don't think it really matters to me what's inside the box. This is a necessary box to buy if I want to be part of those new experiences. Xbox is kind of different. I'm just excited because I think it's a cute looking box for $300. If it includes the controller, that's even better, and you get access to all of the titles. I'm pretty sure they said you'll have access to all of the titles available on the Series X, but maybe just not played at the highest settings. So you have access to the next gen at a low cost, and you don't even need to go all in and spend 60 to 400, $300 would buy you what, 4 games or maybe 5 games of next gen titles? Instead, I could just go, hey, maybe I'll just play all my games on PlayStation, but I might get Xbox Game Pass for a month just to see how much fun it is, and that's only $5 a month. That's no problem. After seeing PS5 and Xbox Series X, wasn't that super excited about next gen, but then I saw Series S and I was like, that's kind of interesting. Just as a marketing move and a general shift towards this subscription model, which might be awful, actually, might be terrible, but I just find it really interesting. I kind of want an Xbox Series S. $300 is definitely the magic number, I think, if you're releasing a console these days. I have no idea how much it costs to put the internals into this machine, but I bet you anything they lose money. The profit comes from people subscribing to Xbox Game Pass and then forgetting to cancel, getting to like the 3rd or 4th month. If a large majority of people can sign up to Game Pass and forget at least 1 month or 2 months into the subscription, then Xbox has probably made enough profit off that person to make the whole thing worthwhile. The whole loss leader, I don't know if it's called loss leader, slight loss on making the console. Anyway, those are my current thoughts on next gen. I like the look of PS5. It's going to be slightly more expensive, $500 for this console, but it's going to be hopefully worth it for all the next gen titles that are going to be coming with it. I feel like the Series S is a nice low cost option, which is enticing me in the same way that the Xbox 360 did. Because when I bought the Xbox 360, I wasn't interested in any of the next-gen games. I keep saying next-gen, but at that time, they were brand new, super fast, super 3D, super beautiful-looking games. I wasn't interested in any of them except for Final Fantasy 13. So I essentially owned Final Fantasy 13, and everything else I played on my 360 was an Xbox Arcade. It was called Xbox Live Arcade. I played Super Meat Boy, Geometry Wars, and this like scrolling shooter called Trouble Witches. You were just like these witches. It was a bit like Toho Project, but sideways. Series S has got me interested because I feel like at a low cost, I could get back involved in that ecosystem. Then again, maybe PlayStation will massively surprise us and come up with their own Series S version of the PS5. Or maybe just the general price of PS5 will be a lot lower than expected. I don't know what they plan to do, but I have a feeling that with these two different options, I don't see any reason why both can't survive and do quite well. What do you think? Do you think Series S is a complete waste of money? Do you feel like they should only go with Series X to just make the console a little bit cheaper? Do you think they should have gone above and beyond and tried to beat the PlayStation at their own game and make an even more expensive console that's a bit more like a PC? They can do crazy stuff that the PS5 can't do, which I think is kind of unlikely, but I don't know. There's all sorts of things that they could have done. Tell me what you think in the comments section below, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And if you want to watch some live streams, come and chat in a more intimate setting so I can actually like talk and reply and answer questions and that sort of thing on the live streams, on Twitch. Link to that is also below. That's pretty much it. I'm looking forward to the presentation of PS5 games that are going to be the launch titles. I think there's going to be like 40 of them. Make sure you've clicked that notification bell so you know when new videos go live, and I'll see you all in the next Nihongo Gamer video.